Hi, I'm Pastor Roy Stevenson, and tonight I'm with Carlos and John, and we've got some expansion stories that we want to share tonight. Harvest has had many expansions over the years, and it's amazing how things work out in terms of people giving their talents, what God has given them gifts to do and to do really well. And often when we think about gifts, we think about spiritual gifts. But in the Old Testament, when Moses was building the tabernacle, God said, go look for the artisans. Look for the people that I've gifted with gifts of, and he listed the carpenters and the plumbers and all of the people that got involved. One of the first expansions we did was in the room that we're in right now. There was a 7-second reverb audio delay in this room, which just means there was a lot of echo. And you can imagine with a worship style like ours, we needed to silence that. And so our very first renovation, our first expansion practically, was to put a new ceiling into this room. And I'll never forget, there's so many interesting pieces of this story of how God provided the materials. We took an expansion offering, and God's people responded with $23,000, which was exactly, almost to the penny, what it cost for the acoustic tiling and all the grid work. But I had nobody to install it. So somebody came along and said, hey, I kind of think maybe I know how to do this. And Carlos, this is kind of where the story gets interesting for you, because the evening that the contractor that was going to do it said he knew how, snapped the chalk line on the wall, and you came over to me, tapped me on the shoulder. Do you remember what you said to me?
Yep. I don't think this is going to hold.
Before you got involved, that evening, somebody else was over already. You tap me and say, hey, he's doing it wrong. And I say, Carlos, how would you know? and tell the story. How did you know how to do an acoustic ceiling like this?
I've worked in construction. Did a lot of drafting as well. We worked in a lot of malls in London, Windsor, Toronto, fancy ceilings. So we took a course. Chicago Metallic, I don't know if they're probably still around, was one of the companies that took us and under their arm to teach. We learned from there, right? And
so
then
you
they taught
actually
us how to
had
teach.
training in another life with specialty ceilings, and you just happened to be standing in the room where we're doing this, noticing this isn't going to go well, and I asked you the question, would you help? And you told me a little piece of information about your life that was interesting, why you would. We had huge scaffolding in this room, like right up, it's 25 feet, I think, to where we were working, and you didn't want to go on the scaffolding.
I had an experience where at the edge of a building, where I almost fell, and where I saw the floor come quick, and there it kind of made me realize, life is short, like things can happen, right?
Yeah.
So, because I used to be brave at the times, walk along the edge of the buildings and this and that. And I remember my brother telling me, you should always have a harness, because you never know what could happen. But I felt a little, you're invincible, kind of, when you were younger.
Right.
Until that happened, it woke me up. So, from there, my fear of heights was great. And then I tried to keep it as quiet as I could.
You explained that fear of heights and said, I'm not getting up there. I remember thinking, you have to get up there. I fired the guy on the scaffolding. I laid hands on you and prayed. I said, we bind that spirit of fear. Not only did you get up on the scaffolding, plan all this incredible work of art out, but you trained some of the guys in the church.
That's where God blessed us. I
Yeah.
just got goosebumps just now because of it. Because my panic was, Lord, if I'm going to do this, I can teach. And if I have the right people, and John, believe it or not, here, everybody was receptive. As I explained to them how they took it, it was just like, it was a no-brainer. It just kind of fell together.
Yeah.
None of this was lasered.
Okay.
And the number I had, and if you ever calculate it, you'll see it was 1421, 7, right? All God's numbers.
Right.
So if you look at everything the way it is, you'll see those numbers on there.
Oh, okay.
If you really calculate, right, you'll see the number, because I wanted to make sure that the top, as you can see, where we didn't have to cut any tiles, it would fit.
Yeah,
So there's 7 rolls up on top,
what you're supposed to do.
14 feet, yeah, and then 21 along the sides. So it all worked out. But with the team that were there, how they worked, how they were so receptive, like a sponge, I couldn't ask for any better.
That expansion project was amazing. It was one of our very first, buying product to the penny. It sat in a room until the next stage of the expansion, and just the story that you tell. And I'm so grateful. And I tell the story tonight because there are people watching, and God's given you a gift. And some of you, we don't know those gifts. We wouldn't have known that Carlos had been trained in acoustic ceilings and being able to put that in. And what you don't perhaps understand tonight is when we come in the room and we turn the volume up and we love worship loud, we're able to do that and have good quality sound because God picked an artisan that said, I trained you here, I need you now. I love that story. John, you were a part of an expansion, the most recent one, kind of getting this particular room ready. It just kind of coincided with a season of your life that you had some time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my boss approached me and said, do you want to get laid off, or like, do you want to work? And I said, well, if you can, then I'll take the layoff, because there's a project at our church that they could use me. And he said, okay. So he laid me off, and then I came here to assist or whatever you guys needed for me to do. So
your craftsmanship, John would never say this about himself, but his craftsmanship is remarkable. If you look at the stage and the trim and all of the details of the construction work, the staircase that you walk on every time you go down to the kids' church wing, that's John's expertise that God gave. And as you can appreciate, as we give our expansion offerings, we really can't afford to pay craftsmen what they are deserving to do those kinds of jobs. And God provides them in-house. And John, if I remember, you gave us 3 months of your time. And how would you, looking back at that, how has God blessed you as a result of you blessing the house?
So when you first we're going to do this, right? Because I know the law of giving and receiving, sowing and reaping, right?
Yes.
So I know that. And so when this came up and you said you needed people, I said, I'm jumping on that, because I know sowing and reaping. It had nothing to do with the volunteer. It had to do with the sowing and the reaping part.
Right.
So I knew that if I would come here and do this, I would be blessed. So when I did all that, and from that time on, and it still goes on today, I get people call me up and say, can you help me with a deck or something else? And I get more side work on the side
Right.
to do other stuff like that.
That is amazing. And as John's referencing that scripture in the New Testament, that God cannot be mocked. Whatever a man sows, he'll also reap. And so you sow construction, you get construction. You sow finances, you get finances. And I love that you share that story. What would you say to someone tonight who's considering getting involved in our summer expansion project?
Don't sell yourself short.
Love
Okay? Because I've taught people how to do the ceiling, and I don't take the credit. God was the one that put the right people there.
Yes.
Okay. You always heard me say that God used me as a tool, and I'm glad He did. But if you're willing and you're open to learn and take constructive criticism, God's going to bless you every which way.